The Agriculture Minister Thoko Didiza now tabling her budget for this financial year, highlighting issues like food security, rural development and the redistribution of land, but also talking about key issues facing the sector. Christo van der Rheede is the Executive Director of Agri SA. Christo, good afternoon to you. Many problems facing your sector at the moment. I'm imagining that load shedding and possibly the cost of diesel are chief among them. Has the Minister gone far enough? What do you want from her to try and resolve these issues?
I really want to commend the Minister. She has done quite well with the limited budget to her availability. I think she focused on three major issues that have a very negative impact on the agricultural sector, such as load shedding, access to markets, as well as assisting with the whole issue of biosecurity. Now, in terms of load shedding, she has announced an energy fund that will assist large farmers as well as medium-sized farmers, small-scale farmers, and it's a blended financing mechanism that she has proposed. And then in terms of market access, I think dealing with the EU regulations that are really draconian in nature, and it has a negative impact on our citrus exports. And then last but not least, big focus on OBP, honest report, that is not really coming to the party in terms of producing vaccines, and a proposal that a private sector party is now being sourced to assist with the production of vaccines, because biosecurity, especially diseases such as foot and mouth, pose a huge threat to our national herd.
The issue of electricity, how much of an impact is it having? I mean, we see food prices that are very high at the moment. Christo, you'll know this. I'm presuming that load shedding has an impact on that, particularly at the farming sector. You need electricity to pump water for irrigation.
Indeed. I mean, the entire agricultural value chain depends on electricity, because we've got a very sophisticated and export-oriented value chain. And for that, you require electricity to maintain your cold storage linkages and your facilities. If there's no cold storage facilities or there's no refrigeration, you can easily compromise the quality of your products, not only for local markets, but for export markets. And then it creates tremendous problems for your processing facilities. Our poultry farmers are in a fix because they cannot on time slaughter their poultry for the fast food outlets. That has resulted in many other problems. Your dairy farmers have to throw away milk that got sour, and then your irrigation farmers have to spend millions on buying diesel to just irrigate their produce, whether it's vegetables or perennial crops or any other grains, for example. So yeah, it's a whole range of problems that are being experienced by the sector, and farmers have to fork out money to mitigate the risk that comes with that.
Are you expecting food prices to go still higher because of load shedding? We're at stage 6 now, all sorts of quite difficult predictions about what could happen during winter. I would presume the more load shedding, the higher food prices will get.
The big challenge is that there's a multitude of factors that have led to the shortage of certain products. In the northern parts of South Africa, we've seen extreme rains that has impacted on the production of tomatoes, onions, and other products. Then we've also experienced load shedding in certain areas and throughout the value chain that has impacted on the quality of produce that must be delivered. And then obviously the big issue is input cost throughout the value chain. Whether you're a potato producer or a grain producer, you are reliant on various inputs, whether it's diesel or fertilizer, any other substance that you require, input that you require to get your crop going. And this has become quite costly. And yes, our prediction is that should load shedding worsen over time, is going to put tremendous pressure on our farmers to produce a variety of agricultural products affordably, and ultimately, it's throughout the value chain where people struggle to maintain the integrity of the food system, and that pushes up the cost of food that ultimately lands on the table of the consumer.
Christo, you spoke about market access, and what you're really talking about is what's happening with the European Union. You're maybe more polite than I am, or maybe you have to be more diplomatic than I have to be, but basically the European Union keeps changing the rules to protect the Spanish orange industry. Let's just call it what it is. How difficult is it for government to deal with that? I mean, do you think government understands how important this is? This is a massive issue for your industry.
Yeah, the Minister has highlighted this issue in her report, and that indicates to me, or in the budget speech, that indicates to me that she's well aware of the implications, and she has partnered with Minister Patel from the DTI to tackle this issue. But I think there should be much more diplomatic pressure being exerted on the European Union. It's completely draconian. It's unfair that our farmers are subjected to this, and it goes contrary to the World Trade rules and playing field. We need to level the playing field. But what I want to also emphasize is that the Minister has also acknowledged the role that our commodities play in the empowerment of a new generation of farmers. And that for me is important.
Christo Rheede, thank you, Executive Director at Agri SA.